Fluorescent lights hum above a paneled room at Washington Navy Yard, steady as tide. A court reporter types with a soft clatter while recording devices blink red on the rail. The air carries the formal chill of rules, and every shuffle sounds louder than it should. Captain Rebecca Sloan, Judge Advocate General Corps, United States Navy, 06, presides with practiced economy. She keeps the record clean, calls each motion with measured cadence, and lets silence do its work. The session is an Article 32 preliminary hearing, a legal filter before any court-martial can be preferred. At counsel table sits Staff Sergeant Avery Collins, United States Marine Corps, E6, 3 Marine Expeditionary Force Reconnaissance. Her back is straight, hands still, eyes forward, calm in the way of someone who trained for pressure. She answers only when required and keeps her voice level. A 7-member panel of senior officers watches from the gallery, faces composed but intent. Trial counsel organizes exhibits, while defense counsel marks objections, both careful to stay inside unclassified boundaries. The recorder light stays steady, a reminder that every second becomes part of the unclassified transcript. Lieutenant General Daniel H. Mercer, United States Marine Corps, 09, attends as the convening authority observer. He is not the presiding official, yet his presence carries weight. He leans forward between questions, shaping pauses, suggesting that gaps in public after-action reports reveal a Marine hiding behind classification. The pressure tightens as Mercer presses character over facts, voice even and pointed. He asks the improper question about her kill count in open session, and the room goes still as a held breath. Staff Sergeant Collins lifts her eyes to answer. The moment cuts to black before the words arrive. An Article 32 preliminary hearing at Washington Navy Yard functions as a legal filter before any court-martial. It tests probable cause, preserves due process, and builds a clean record. The session convenes at 2:30 p.m. under bright fluorescent lights that make every sound feel precise. Captain Rebecca Sloan, Judge Advocate General Corps, United States Navy, 06, serves as the military judge. She controls the record, rules on objections, and ensures the parties stay within proper scope. Her cadence is measured and neutral, so the process, not personalities, leads. Trial counsel presents evidence and witnesses to outline the alleged offenses. Defense counsel challenges the government's case, raises objections, and protects the rights of the accused. A court reporter types steadily while recording devices capture the proceeding for an unclassified transcript. A 7-member panel of senior officers observes without directing the hearing. Their role is to understand the case landscape, not to rule from the gallery. Lieutenant General Daniel H. Mercer, United States Marine Corps, 09, attends as the convening authority observer and cannot overrule the judge. For an enlisted Marine, accurate charging language includes Article 92 for failure to obey a lawful order or regulation. Article 91 may apply for insubordinate conduct toward a warrant officer or non-commissioned officer when facts support it, and Article 134 covers offenses that affect good order and discipline. Article 133, conduct unbecoming, does not apply to enlisted personnel and should not be used. When a question touches top-secret CI Special Access Program information, the judge stops unclassified discussion. The session moves to a sensitive, compartmented information facility with a classified record, read and verification, and strict need-to-know limits. Devices are secured, entry is logged, and only cleared personnel remain. The purpose of this structure is simple and serious. Real United States military law sets the stakes, respects the accused, and protects national security. Grounding the audience in this procedure makes every later twist feel credible and earned. Staff Sergeant Avery Collins serves as a reconnaissance Marine with Military Occupational Specialty 0321. She comes from 3 Marine Expeditionary Force Forward Reconnaissance and carries herself like the job expects. Her presence is quiet, alert, and ready. Her record shows commendations that mark real work done under pressure. Many after-action reports are sanitized or compartmented, so the open file looks thin to anyone outside the need to know. The gaps are the cost of doing hard things the right way. Avery sits straight at a table and keeps her hands still. She saves words for when they matter and uses them cleanly. That calm is not detachment, it is training and trust in the process. She is bound by TOP secret sensitive compartmented information rules with a special access program. Lawful orders and non-disclosure agreements set bright lines she will not cross in an open forum. Protecting sources and methods is part of protecting lives. Her selection for maritime boarding did not happen by chance. Extended training in allied urban shipboarding tactics shaped her into a lead breacher who can think and move inside steel corridors. The specifics of partners and methods stay off the record. Avery's code is simple and strong. Chain of command comes first, then team, then self. She honors the uniform by staying inside the rules, even when silence is misunderstood. Small details tell the truth. She checks a watch, nods on, "Sir," and writes notes in a block hand she learned in a field notebook. None of it asks for attention. All of it builds trust. The audience meets a Marine who keeps her promises when nobody is watching. The posture, the restraint, and the steady confidence are not for show. They are the work. Lieutenant General Daniel H. Mercer sits in the gallery as a convening authority observer. He reads the redacted lines in the file and treats them like missing character, not protected work. He does not raise his voice. He threads his comments between questions, letting tone do what authority cannot do in this room. Across the rail, a 7-member panel of senior officers watches with still faces. 2 share a brief look that feels like a verdict forming before facts settle. Trial counsel presses the gaps in public after action reports. The questions stay inside unclassified bounds, but invite the audience to fill blanks with suspicion. Defense counsel answers with calm timing. Any topic that touches top secret CI special access program material must move to a sensitive compartmented information facility with a classified record. Captain Rebecca Sloan keeps the pace even. She is the military judge and she controls the record, which means Mercer cannot overrule her from the gallery. Still, his posture carries weight. He leans forward at key moments to suggest that silence equals evasion, and the room absorbs the hint. The court reporter types without pause, while recording devices blink a steady red. Every breath lands louder than it should, and the space feels smaller with each exchange. What builds is not a shout, but a tilt. A crowd leans toward an easy story, while the person least read in on compartmented truth speaks with the most confidence. Procedure holds, yet pressure grows in small ways. A pen taps, a shoulder shifts. A glance lingers a second longer than courtesy allows. By the time defense counsel reminds the court that the proper venue for classified discussion is the skiff, the air is tight. Mercer has said little, but the message is clear enough to sway anyone not anchored to the rules. Lieutenant General Daniel H. Mercer asks for dates and locations tied to the South China Sea in 2023. He turns to the Persian Gulf in 2024 and waits as if timing might shake something loose. The room listens for more than words and catches the pause between them. Staff Sergeant Avery Collins answers with discipline. She states that she cannot discuss operations in an unclassified forum. Any response that touches top secret CI special access program material must move to a sensitive compartmented information facility. Captain Rebecca Sloan, Judge Advocate General Corps, United States Navy, 06, reminds the room of procedure. She directs that any line of questioning involving classified equities be deferred until a closed session. Her cadence is even and the record stays clean. Trial counsel keeps questions inside unclassified boundaries where they belong. Dates, unit designations, and public facts are fair ground. Anything beyond that trips the wire for classification. Defense counsel objects when Mercer edges past the line. The objection is brief and grounded in the rules. Captain Sloan sustains and marks the limit for the transcript. Mercer adjusts by asking about patterns instead of missions. He frames gaps in after-action reports as a choice rather than a requirement. The suggestion hangs heavier than the words that carried it. Avery holds her posture and repeats the standard. She will answer within unclassified scope. She will request a skiff for anything that crosses into protected information. The court reporter types steadily while recording devices blink red. A clock on the wall clicks toward a late morning mark, quiet and firm. The panel watches without comment. Mercer chooses the question no one should ask in open court. He asks for her kill count. The room goes silent as a held breath, while Avery lifts her eyes in steady resolve. Captain Sloan glances to the recorder, already measuring the next step. The pressure does not need a raised voice to be felt. The moment sets the shift to a classified session that will answer only what the law allows. The question lands, and the room holds its breath. Staff Sergeant Avery Collins sets her shoulders and answers in a calm, clinical voice. She states that 73 hostile combatants were neutralized during a single compartmented joint maritime operation with team-confirmed battle damage assessment under a special access program. She does not claim personal tallies. She lists outcomes and effects on target as the standard of record. The phrasing is precise and free of flourish, the kind used when words become evidence. A colonel stops writing mid-stroke. A commander shifts once and then stills. The court reporter hesitates for a fraction, then types faster to keep pace with the record. The panel looks as if the temperature changed by a few degrees. What sounded like bravado when imagined as a count now reads as a system outcome from a real fight. Silence collects in the corners of the room. Rear Admiral Lucas Hale sits in the gallery with a steady profile. At the number, his posture tightens and his eyes narrow, the way recognition can feel like a weight. He is the one person here who seems to understand what she just unlocked. Captain Rebecca Sloan notes the impact without breaking cadence. Procedure waits for the right trigger, and the trigger has arrived. Authority shifts from personalities to process in a way everyone can feel. Avery adds 5 words that seal the moment. Phantom Trident becomes a coded identifier that signals compartmented equities and the need for a secure venue. The phrase is plain, but the effect is total. The judge prepares to recess and move to a sensitive compartmented information facility. Devices will be secured and entry will be logged with clear times and names. The room holds its stillness as the classified door begins to open in everyone's mind. Captain Rebecca Sloan calls a recess and makes the move clear with calm authority. She states that the identifier requires a classified venue and that the unclassified session is closed for now. The court reporter prepares to shift the record to a protected channel. She directs the court reporter to open a classified record and notes the transition on the log. Recording devices stay under control, labeled for the new classification. All personnel without clearance are told to vacate the room. A brief clearance check follows in the corridor. Rear Admiral Lucas Hale confirms read-in to the relevant special access program, his badge and paperwork matching the compartment. Others, including Lieutenant General Daniel H. Mercer, are not read in and must wait outside. Security control measures begin at a collection table. Phones and smartwatches go into Faraday bags with seals pressed flat. Portable electronics are tagged and secured before anyone approaches the sensitive compartmented information facility door. At the skiff entrance, a guard verifies badges and cross-checks the access list. Entry times are logged in clear speech, such as 2:45 p.m. for the first group. The door closes with a soft lock that sounds final. Inside the skiff, the room is spare and quiet with no windows and a steady, cool airflow. A single clock marks the hour without flourish. The lights are even, and the walls hold the hush that rules require. Captain Sloan restates the need to know limits and confirms who may remain. Defense counsel and trial counsel stay only if lawfully read into the compartment and noted on the access list. Hale requests to address the judge on compartmented equities. The court reporter begins the classified record on a dedicated system. A small indicator light glows steady to show the channel is active. Pens move, shoulders lower, and the room resets under top-secret CI rules. The sense of authority shifts from posture to process. No one competes for the floor because the rules already own it. What comes next will be measured, precise, and recorded the way it should be. The room inside the sensitive compartmented information facility is quiet and cool. A single clock marks the hour, and the air feels filtered and still. Papers are clean, edges square, and attention is absolute. Rear Admiral Lucas Hale delivers a sanitized overview of Phantom Trident. He frames it as a maritime threat that developed in the Spratly Islands during the summer of 2023. The focus is on risk, capability, and required effects. Naval intelligence identified a command and control vessel disguised as a factory fishing ship. Signals showed submarine queuing, missile guidance relays, and electronic warfare coordination aimed toward multiple carrier strike groups. The platform masked as commercial traffic while directing complex targeting. An overt strike risked rapid escalation and diplomatic fallout. Conventional response would have carried attribution and could have invited a wider confrontation at sea. The solution fell to a special mission unit under Joint Special Operations Command with authority for low-visibility action. Staff Sergeant Avery Collins was attached as a United States Marine Corps liaison and lead breacher to a Naval Special Warfare Development Group task unit. Her selection followed extended Allied training in urban shipboarding tactics and compartment fighting aboard steel structures. Specific partners and methods remain outside the record. The mission objective was clear and narrow: neutralize the command node and sever control links without attribution or collateral escalation. Effects-based success would be measured in the silence of disrupted networks rather than public headlines. Hale outlines interagency coordination in sober terms. Intelligence feeds came through established channels with strict need-to-know separation and compartment tags. Each step aligned operational control, legal review, and policy guidance to keep the action within lawful bounds. He pauses on the consequence space to mark the scale of risk. Multiple carrier strike groups represented thousands of sailors and strategic posture across a contested region. Phantom Trident existed to cut the hostile hand from the switch without lighting a larger fuse. The briefing ends where it began: inside procedure and restraint. No sources or methods are named, and every term stays accurate to United States practice. The tension comes from the narrow path between deterrence and war, and the knowledge that it had to be walked cleanly. The night run starts under the hull of an attack submarine. A swimmer delivery vehicle carries the team to deep water and stages them to combat rubber raiding craft for the final leg. 10 to 12-foot swells rise and fall like moving walls. Noise and light discipline is absolute. Chem lights stay capped, and optics ride dark until the last minute. The coxswain angles in on the shadow side of a factory fishing ship that hides a command and control center. Engines burble at low throttle and die 100 yards short. Paddles take over, blades entering the water clean to keep sound flat. The ship's wake slaps the bow and then eases. Boarding starts with a hook under the blind arc of a camera. A caving ladder and a rigid ladder go up in sequence so 2 points can move at once. The climb is short and ends at a steel door with a heavy hinge. Staff Sergeant Avery Collins works as lead breacher and runs timing on push-to-talk comms. She calls set, marks standby, and checks charges by touch. Linear or hinge charges go where metal dictates. Explosives are not always safe in tight compartments. Avery uses a Mossberg 590A1 with breaching rounds to take a lock without throwing fragments deep. The muzzle stays canted, and the shot is angled into the jamb. Each operator carries a short barrel carbine, an HK 416 or a MK 18, with magazines staged for a clean draw. An M18 sidearm rides holstered, and PVS 31 night vision sits ready, and a PRC 163 radio ties the net. Bolt cutters and a Halligan-style tool round out the kit. Rules of engagement require positive identification, hostile intent or capability, and discrimination in tight spaces. Fingers stay off triggers until positive identification. Muzzles held low, ready through narrow ladders and corners. Safety is a habit and a promise. There is no organic air support overhead. Distant intelligence surveillance recon watches from far away to avoid attribution and to keep the sea picture clean. Updates arrive as low traffic bursts on the net. The craft bumps the hull as swell meets steel. The ladder flexes and hands move in rhythm that comes from rehearsal. Calm process governs the moment while the ship's noise rolls around them like weather. They clear the rail and the clock starts. The close quarters battle runs for roughly 72 to 80 minutes, measured by calls on the net and the slow tick of a watch. Sea noise thumps through the hull. The assault splits cleanly. Alpha drives toward the bridge and topside access. Bravo angles down and forward to the Combat Information Center and the comms room. Staff Sergeant Avery Collins leads Bravo on push to talk communications. She calls standby, then breach, then move, with short pauses for checks. Linear or hinge charges sit where steel makes sense and standoff is safe. Controlled blast windows keep fragments contained. Doors fold or kick free and the stack flows through the threshold. Each move is timed, so shooters are never in a blast cone. Room entries are 2 or 4 person stacks that slice the pie at every corner. Positive identification comes first under white light or under night vision when power flickers. Flashbangs are rare in metal spaces to keep overpressure low. Weapons stay at low, ready, and safe until identification is made. An HK-416 or a MK-18 short-barrel carbine rides the sling, and an M18 sidearm stays holstered. Fingers rest off triggers until targets are confirmed. Opposition comes in dispersed clusters, 30 to 40 in total, with mixed small arms. The fights stack up in narrow corridors and ladder wells, where control of angles means survival. Every ladder well feels like a funnel that demands patient pacing. Command and control links are cut in sequence. Alpha secures the bridge and isolates helm and nav. Bravo pulls the comms racks offline. Bags secure drives for exploitation, and places charges on key nodes to keep them dead. Battle damage assessment is not guessed on the fly. It is compiled later from team headcount, helmet camera review, and remote intelligence surveillance recon feeds. The team confirmed total is 73 hostile combatants neutralized across the ship. That number reflects system outcomes, not a personal tally by Avery. The command node is silent and the links are severed. The exfiltration path begins as the sea stays rough outside the hull and the clock winds down. After a mission like Phantom Trident, the paperwork does not vanish. It moves behind a locked door. All after-action reports, video, and technical annexes live inside a sensitive compartmented information facility under top-secret SCI with a special access program file number. Access is not about rank alone. Only personnel read into that compartment with a verified need to know can open those files. Every entry is logged with time and purpose. Recognition still happens, but it looks different. Awards can be issued with sanitized citations that honor meritorious service under hazardous conditions. The text omits operational specifics, sources, and methods to protect people and ongoing capabilities. For Staff Sergeant Avery Collins, the rules are not optional. She is bound by non-disclosure agreements, lawful orders under Article 92, and classification law. That means no discussion of operations in any open forum, no matter who asks. Those limits leave seams in her public record. Outsiders see redactions and assume evasion or arrogance. Inside the team, the silence reads as discipline and trust. Chain of command remains the compass. She answers to the Marines who own her administrative control and to the joint leaders who set operational control. She follows written orders and documented procedures because lives and missions depend on them. The ethics are quiet and exacting. Protecting secrets is another way of protecting people, from sources to operators to sailors they may never meet. Keeping the story small can keep the damage small if something breaks later. The feeling that lingers is steady, not loud. Promises were made in training rooms and in sign-in logs, and she keeps them the same way she keeps a safety check. In this world, silence can be loyalty measured over years, not minutes. The classified record resumes inside the sensitive compartmented information facility. Air is cool, and a small indicator light shows the channel is live. Pens move quietly while attention settles on the bench. Rear Admiral Lucas Hale presents a memorandum and a directive from the Secretary of Defense. The documents protect Special Access Program equities and request adjournment with referral to the convening authority for dismissal with prejudice. He slides the packet forward with chain of custody intact. Captain Rebecca Sloan, Judge Advocate General Corps, United States Navy, 06, verifies the document chain. She confirms jurisdiction and reads the essential authority into the record. Her cadence is steady, so the transcript captures each element cleanly. The judge directs the proper procedural steps on the classified log. She notes receipt, marks, exhibits, and sets the path to execution. Process moves like a checklist that leaves no gaps. Lieutenant General Daniel H. Mercer is present only as an observer. He is not read into this compartment and cannot argue merits. The limitation is recorded, so the boundary is clear. Defense counsel states that Staff Sergeant Avery Collins has complied with all lawful orders under Article 92. Any gaps in unclassified materials are the result of compartmentation, not misconduct. The point is brief and precise. Trial counsel acknowledges the directive on behalf of the government. To preserve interests, counsel requests the narrowest unclassified statement possible when the court reconvenes. The judge agrees to craft language that meets the need and reveals nothing more. Cap Sloan confirms that the classified purpose has been satisfied. She checks with the court reporter and closes out the exhibits for secure retention. The indicator light remains steady on the classified channel. The sense in the room shifts to quiet satisfaction. Power belongs to the rules and not to posture. Proper authority has done its work. The judge prepares to return to open session. The plan is to deliver minimal public language and adjourn. The classified record holds while the room rises to leave the vault at 3:10 p.m. The courtroom at Washington Navy Yard settles after the recess. Captain Rebecca Sloan, Judge Advocate General Corps, United States Navy, 06, calls the session to order at 3:20 p.m. Her voice is steady and the room answers with quiet attention. She delivers the narrow public language with care. Proceedings are adjourned and charges will not be preferred further due to classified equities that protect special access program information. No operational details are offered, and none are asked for. The court reporter records each word for the unclassified transcript. Recording devices continue in their approved mode, so the public record is complete. The phrasing is precise, so nothing sensitive slips past the boundary. Lieutenant General Daniel H. Mercer remains in his seat as an observer. He offers no comment and makes no motion, which is consistent with his role at this stage. The 7-member panel takes its cue from the bench and holds decorum over curiosity. Staff Sergeant Avery Collins stands with defense counsel at counsel table. Her posture is straight and respectful, hands quiet at her sides. She acknowledges the moment with a small nod that reads as duty rather than relief. Captain Sloan confirms that there is nothing further for open court. She notes the adjournment time for the record and closes the session with simple formality. The room exhales without a sound. What matters has already been decided in the proper forum. The public hears only what it should and nothing more. Restraint feels like part of justice, measured in clean words and a closed file that did its job. Cut orders arrive the same way most changes do in the military. A folder, a digital message, and a short line that moves a career. Staff Sergeant Avery Collins reads the routing and nods once. Administrative control stays with the United States Marine Corps. Operational control shifts to a joint task force focused on maritime threat assessment. The distinction is clear on paper and clearer in practice. Orders are issued and endorsed in sequence. The reporting chain routes daily work through Rear Admiral Lucas Hale as the Joint Task Force operational lead, while the Marine administrative chain remains intact. Points of contact are listed with phone numbers and duty emails. Onboarding to the sensitive compartmented information facility begins the same day. Badge issuance is scheduled, access lists are updated, and read and verification is set with the security manager. Non-disclosure acknowledgments are signed and filed. The drive from Washington Navy Yard to the Pentagon takes place at 2:15 p.m. under a pale sky. The car slides through the gate, then into a controlled lane. No one speaks because the day already said enough. Security screening is routine but exact. IDs are checked, laptops stay outside, and the turnstiles click in sequence. A quiet elevator ride carries them to a restricted corridor that smells like new paint and recirculated air. Inside a small conference room, the new team waits with open laptops and patient faces. Avery is introduced as a United States Marine Corps liaison to a Naval Special Warfare Development Group Task Unit Planning Cell. Roles, expectations, and tasking rhythms are set in plain language. The work starts with a map, a timeline, and a set of priority intelligence requirements. J2 owns the picture, J3 owns the move, and Avery bridges the gap with operator context. The tone is professional and unemotional. Nothing about this feels like a dramatic rescue. It is a by-the-book reassignment with calm respect on both sides and a focus on immediate mission work. Competence is the mood and the goal. Rear Admiral Hale offers a brief acknowledgement of tasking that needs to move today. Avery returns a crisp affirmative without flourish. The meeting breaks and the work begins now. Staff Sergeant Avery Collins arrives at the Pentagon as a United States Marine Corps liaison to a joint task force focused on maritime threat assessment. She signs in at the watch desk and takes a seat at the briefing room table. Her notebook opens to a clean page and a pen rests on the spiral. Screens show maritime zones with layered overlays. Electronic warfare signatures crawl in thin bands, and AIS anomalies blink near choke points. A Central Intelligence Agency liaison sits opposite a row of senior officers and nods to begin. The room starts with patterns and open questions. J2 Intelligence outlines what is known and what is missing. J3 Operations frames risk to carrier strike groups and asks for taskable leads. Avery listens for 10 minutes and writes short notes. She studies dwell times on tracks and the spacing of pings. Her first entry is a simple call-out to timed probing of patrol routes. She adds latency checks on response, marked by small disturbances that repeat on a 7-day cycle. She points to mapping of coverage gaps where sensors thin during weather and shift change. The room leans closer to the screens. Avery cross-references signals intelligence with maritime traffic data on a shared display. She layers of prior tactics, techniques, and procedures set from 2023 that matches the rhythm of the current probes. The overlay supports a confident 6-week warning window if the pattern holds. A watch officer asks measured questions that test her assumptions. Avery walks through sources, thresholds, and error bars without pushing past what can be supported. Her tone stays plain and steady. Initial skepticism softens as the analysis holds under cross-checks. The team produces taskable leads that include 2 priority collection boxes and a refined priority intelligence requirement. J2 captures the asks and assigns owners. Rear Admiral Lucas Hale observes from the back of the room without interruption. When the brief ends, he gives a small nod that reads as confidence rather than praise. The temperature in the room lowers a degree. Avery receives a short follow-on tasker to refine indicators and warnings and draft a quick look for the night shift. She answers with a simple affirmative and turns back to the keyboard. Competence has found its place, and the work moves forward. A carbine rests at low ready, and the sling holds the weight, not the wrists. Muzzle awareness lives in each step, so the HK 416 or MK 18 points where eyes are willing to answer. Fingers ride the frame until positive identification. A quiet magazine check takes a second and then disappears. Tactical reloads happen during a lull and keep a full gun in the fight. An emergency reload is fast, loud, and only when the bolt locks on empty. The M18 stays holstered until the carbine cannot solve the geometry. When it comes out, the draw is clean and the presentation is straight. Holster work ends with a firm seat and a quick glance to confirm. Radio calls land short and clear on push to talk. Set, breach, move, and say again for repeats, keep the stack aligned. Copy and Roger close the loop without clutter. Ranks and names are handled with care. Sir or ma'am for officers, rank and last name for peers, and no casual first names while on duty. Respect sounds like habit, not ceremony. Rules of engagement set the left and right limits. Decisions rest on positive identification and hostile intent or capability, even when the corridor is tight. Body count talk gives way to battle damage assessment and effects on target that match the mission. Small moments tell the truth better than speeches. A nod on "sir" from junior to senior carries more weight than a headline. A clean call on comms before a door is breached steadies the room. The tone stays human because that is how real work sounds. Plain words, steady pacing, and the discipline to do each step the same way every time. Competence becomes its own kind of calm. She walks a Pentagon corridor trimmed with framed history and soft light. Her pace is steady, badge swinging against a muted blouse. The air carries the hum of recycled air and distant HVAC and muffled footsteps behind. Faded photos show carriers at sea, squadrons on a ramp, and crews gathered on steel decks. She does not linger because the work is not in the photographs. It is in the spaces between them. Some people protect without recognition and prefer it that way. The narration inside her head is simple: keep your word and keep your team safe. Silence becomes a promise kept under law, loyalty, and time. The elevator chimes once and stops at a secure floor. A guard checks her badge, and she signs the log at 3:40 p.m. The sensitive compartmented information facility door seals behind her. Rear Admiral Lucas Hale steps beside her with a quiet check-in to ask if she has what she needs. She answers that she is set. He nods and lets the moment pass. News moves in brief lines. Lieutenant General Daniel H. Mercer has submitted retirement papers with no public statement. No one comments, and the hall absorbs it the way it absorbs footsteps at day's end. At her desk, the laptop glow is soft and the ventilation hums steady. She updates indicators, checks a list, and drafts a one-page note. The classified world hums behind the next door. Real strength does not ask for a spotlight. It moves in clean logs, steady signatures, and tasks closed before dinner. She sets her pen down, breathes once, and returns to work because the work is the point for the mission. Silence can be strength when it guards lives and missions. Staff Sergeant Avery Collins followed lawful orders under Article 92 and honored signed non-disclosure agreements. Her quiet was not fear. It was discipline in service of people who could not speak. Classification exists to protect sources, methods, and ongoing operations. When she declined to discuss deployments in open court, she respected that boundary. The choice kept faith with a team that still counts on those protections. Real authority serves people and process before pride. The military judge held the line, moved sensitive discussion to a secure room, and kept the record clean. A directive from the Secretary of Defense reinforced that the rules, not personalities, decide outcomes. What the audience saw was order restored by the book. No raised voices were needed. Clear jurisdiction, proper exhibits, and a measured adjournment did what posture could not. Dignity in service means outcomes matter more than recognition. Medals can be sanitized and reports can be sealed, yet the work still saves lives. The uniform carries weight even when the story must stay small. You can honor unseen work without knowing every detail. Choose restraint over rumor when a file looks thin. Choose respect and competence in your own lane, because quiet excellence scales farther than noise. Carry these lessons forward with a steady heart. Thank the people who protect you, even when you do not know their names. Let gratitude guide the way you lead, and let your word be good when no one is watching. If this story brought someone to mind, leave a simple salute in the comments for a person who protected others without recognition. Share a brief note about unseen effort in your life and how it mattered when no one was watching. If you would like more true-to-life narratives about restraint, teamwork, resilience, and quiet leadership, you are welcome to subscribe. Think of it as joining a steady conversation, not a pitch. Share this video only if it might help someone feel seen. Pass it to a friend who could use a moment of calm strength at the end of a long day. Please keep details accurate and respectful when you post. Use correct terms like Marine, soldier, sailor, or airman, and remember that classification protects lives as well as stories. If you served, thank you. If you support someone who serves, your care counts more than you know. Your time is a gift, and I'm grateful you spent a few minutes here. Small gestures matter when they are sincere, like a nod in a hallway or a quiet thank you at 7:15 a.m. before the duty day begins. Open with low-tension, courtroom ambience that sits under the narration. Let fluorescent hum, muted shuffles, and a soft keyboard tap set the pace. When the 5-word reveal lands, drop to a hush and hold a long, clean tail. For the move to the secure room, cue realism with a quiet maglock click and the soft thump of a Faraday bag on a table. Keep reverb dry to suggest carpet and heavy walls. Avoid dramatic stingers and lean on room tone. Use clean graphics instead of real classified imagery. Show a simplified factory trawler diagram, an approach line for a swimmer delivery vehicle handing to combat rubber raiding craft, and ladder placement against the shadow side. Add a minimal spectrum style panel to imply electronic warfare coordination without showing sources or methods. On screen, text must be precise. Use court-martial, commendations, Spratly, trawler, after-action report, battle damage assessment, command and control, and sensitive compartmented information facility. Always use magazine instead of clip. Polish dialogue to stay short and human. State correct roles and ranks as Captain Rebecca Sloan, Judge Advocate General Corps, United States Navy, 06, Rear Admiral Lucas Hale, and Lieutenant General Daniel H. Mercer, United States Marine Corps, 09, with proper sir or ma'am. Keep address formal on duty and avoid first names. Legal and policy accuracy anchors trust. Frame the hearing as an Article 32 preliminary hearing. Use Article 92 and Article 134 for enlisted language, and move any special access program content into a sensitive, compartmented information facility. Record a classified transcript rather than turning cameras off. Maintain location continuity from Washington Navy Yard to the Pentagon. Show a plausible mid-afternoon drive at around 2:30 p.m. across the river with brief exterior, then security, turnstiles, and a quiet elevator to a restricted corridor. Avoid cutting from Norfolk to the Pentagon. Props and wardrobe must match the day. Use Navy service dress or working uniform appropriate to a hearing setting. Marine Corps service uniform for Staff Sergeant Avery Collins, and neutral non-branded tactical visuals for training cutaways. Keep weapons accurate and handled safely. Guide editors to keep narration in paragraphs of 2 to 3 sentences. Use a light background score that never competes with voice, and let silence carry key beats. Lower thirds should be tasteful and sparing with correct spellings and ranks. End on a quiet card that invites a gentle salute in comments. Hold the card for a natural 2 count and let the score fade cleanly. Trust restraint to do the work and the viewer to feel it. The hallway at the Pentagon is still and bright. Staff Sergeant Avery Collins walks toward a door marked for a sensitive compartmented information facility, her steps measured and quiet. A badge clicks back onto a lanyard and settles against her blouse. Light rests soft on polished floors. A wall clock reads a late afternoon time, 4:45 p.m., and the moment stretches like a held breath. The guard watches, nods once, and the door waits for her hand. The narration settles into the spaces most people never see. Quiet strength often lives in rooms without windows and in logs that carry names and times. Service can be unseen and still shape the course of a day. Cut to a conference room where screens sit dark and chairs line up straight. The air carries the faint sound of ventilation, as if the building itself is keeping pace. The picture holds long enough to feel the rhythm of work that continues after the story ends. Records are protected by law and by people who keep their word. Restraint is not absence. It is respect that leaves space for safety. Fade to a simple title card that thanks you for your time and invites a gentle salute in the comments, with no fanfare and no loud music.